right, welcome back everyone to another edition of Chasing Ghosts. This is the video series where I talk about those hard to find, those impossible to find comic books, those things you just don't see up on the wall of your LCS when you go check out what they might have that week when you're picking up your new books. These are just some tough books, some rare stuff that are just not easy to find. And I just like to take a look into them to see whether these are hard to find or completely impossible to find. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as the other stuff here on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Continue to tell your friends so we can keep growing the channel. Check out the live shows on Sundays and on Wednesdays. Join the live chat as we have a blast going through some stuff talking about, pop culture, comics, movies, Star Wars, all that fun stuff. Come join the fun. It's a blast. So, with that being said, this week I don't have a singular theme running throughout my selections. It's a little bit of a hodgepodge of some Marvel books. So, if you want to see what books I want to take a little bit of a deeper dive into, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro and I'll be right back with this week's selections. All right, so as I kind of teased there in the open, we are going to be just looking at some Marvel incentives that have come out over the last decade or so, and just see, how tough are some of these books to find. Now, not all of these are incentive variants, and not all of these are books you might have even been thinking about. So this is just some weird, oddball stuff that I just kind of put together. A couple suggestions, some from some friends and some viewers out there for some of these, and we're just going to go through the list and see what we have. Now, the first one, as I mentioned, is one of the ones that's not an incentive. Now, this is just one of those convention exclusives. This is the Marvel mixtape from 2009. Back around that time, I think they did it in like 2009, 10, 11, and 12. Then I think they kind of stopped. But Marvel did this mixtape idea where they basically it was kind of a preview. It was a preview issue. Basically what it was. It's just some couple of previews inside these books that they gave away at conventions like San Diego and New York, and maybe even C2E2. But this one, I believe, was from New York Comic-Con in 2009. As you can see right there on the cover, you're getting a tease at the Shuri Black Panther, or I should say that volume of Black Panther where Shuri eventually takes the mantle. But you can see the little preview image of that #1 with that Campbell cover right there front and center on this one, along with some Agents of Atlas, which is kind of fun. Some Spider-Man stuff. Secret Warriors ain't too bad. Just some previews inside this little book that you would have picked up for free, I think, at the Marvel table at New York Comic-Con back in 2009. So, as I said, 2009, New York Comic-Con. Don't know what the print run's going to be on this thing because it is technically was a free giveaway. So there is no real solid. So there's really no clear way for me to find out what the print run on is this because there's no solid information out there. This was a convention giveaway. I mean, who knows how many survived walking around that con that people were just stuffed in a bag. These things, who knows? They may be lost to the ages. And this is just one of the few that had something interesting previewed in it with that, Black Panther front and center, as I mentioned. A couple of these have been graded. We look here at the CGC. I actually shouldn't say a couple. That's incorrect. There's one 9.8, not a couple. 9.8 of the New York Comic-Con version of this Marvel mixtape. And 9.8 is the only one that's in the census right now. And nothing over on the CBCS population report for this particular comic book, this little preview book. That being said, what's out there right now? We do have 2 copies out there right now. So if you go out there shopping, $100, $130 are the asks on the 2 raws that are floating around out there right now. And one that actually sold over the last couple of months sold for only $20. So somebody got a good deal, I think, there. Now, I'm not saying this should be a $100 book. It's a preview book. It is what it is. But it's still a hard to find little collectible. So $20 to me personally doesn't seem like that bad of a bargain. Other than that, I leave it up to you to decide what you think of this preview book and this convention exclusive. Now, just wanted to cover it because I've had it on my list for a while and figured this was a good week to kind of throw it into the pile. Because, like I said, I got a little bit of a hodgepodge of stuff going forward with this one. Next up, it's a recent book. This is a pretty recent book. And with the preview images of Iron Man going to be proposing to Patsy Walker Hellcat, this cover could see a lot of interest coming up soon. Again, I know it was hot when it first kind of came out, and then it just kind of got forgotten about a little bit. And this is Iron Man #5. This is a beautiful Frank Cho cover. I love the kind of the negative space kind of quality to the background. It's not quite a negative space. It's more of like a color blend, color bleed. But January 2021. This one's not that old. This only came out a year ago. 1 in 25 incentive. But considering it came out during pandemic times, I don't have a solid source for the print run information to even give you an estimate on how many copies of this one might be out there. So we're just going to have to guess a little bit. And like I said, this one could start seeing some interest coming up soon, but we'll see. Just to get an idea, we can look at the CGC census and see that there are 68 graded. So that's not too bad for the first year of this book. 51 9/8, 15 9/6, and then a couple of others rounding out that 68 in the census. And we do have 8 over on the CBCS population report with 6 9/8, a 9/6, and a 9/4. So if you're curious, that's what's out there in the census. And what's out there on the market? Well, you can get this book for like 60 to 80 bucks. And there are a bunch of copies. There's 14 of them up there right now. I think there's a mix of some raws and some graded. I just gave you some example prices on some raws because that's what I look at first. So, like I said, 60 to kind of 80 bucks is the range that this 1 in 25 is asking for. And you got a few options. So you can see 14 right now when I did a little look in of what's on the market and what's sold over the last few months. Well, just some examples: 9/8, 120 bucks, 9/8, 140, a raw 67.50 basically. And these are 3 of the 6 that have sold in the last couple of months, just to give you an idea. So this one could be tough to find, but maybe not quite the ghost. But we'll make that call when we get to the end. That said, still a cool book. I kind of dig it. I do not have this one. I'm hoping to find one at a decent price. But right now, I'm not paying this market price personally. It's just not for me. And like I said, prices might even bounce up a little bit if this storyline of the engagement takes off. Just saying, this could be one that people start looking for. The next book is one that my buddy Chris Nelms mentioned a while back, and I just kind of put it on my list to bring up at a later point. And this is this Greg Land, Iron Patriot #3. This came out in May of 2014, and this isn't that tough of an incentive, but still, there weren't a lot of people buying Iron Patriot, when this came out, especially in issue 3. This was a 1 in 15 incentive, after all. But when we look at the actual print run, it was under 15,000 for the total print run. So even at a 1 in 15, you do that math, there's under 1,000 copies of this potentially for this Greg Land variant. And it's a pretty cool little display. This is kind of what we'd seen inside for Tony Stark when he is inside the Iron Man outfit in the MCU. This is the kind of readout that we would see. So that is what I think Greg Land was going for with this cover. And it's something we really hadn't seen in comic form before. Pretty cool, if you ask me. And just one you're not going to bump into all the time, because again, it's not a big selling book, Iron Patriot, and even at a 1 in 15 incentive, it's not the easiest thing to track down. Now, CGC census on this, we got one. Look at that, we got a single 9/8. So not a lot of people grading this book either. So it is what it is. And if we look over on the CBCS census or population report, they have one as well. They also have a 9/6 over on their side. So 2 copies graded, a CGC and a CBCS. And if we want to go look in the market to see if there's any copies of this book, there are 4 right now. So we got 4 options, ranging from about 50 to 70 bucks raw for these. Because again, there's only that one graded that's in the census and one in the population report. So raw copies are where it's at if you're shopping. And if you want to see what this thing is actually sold for in the last couple of months, well, none have sold for us to give you a solid market on that right now. But still an interesting book, and one I think you can keep an eye out for. Even at that low of an incentive, like a 1 in 15, it's still kind of tough. I know there's 4 out there, but I'm telling you, once a couple of those sell, I don't know if we're going to see a lot more of these come to market. Just saying. Pretty cool. And I'm not endorsing spending $50 on this either because I'm probably not going to. This would be more of something I'd be searching for at ratio thereabouts, maybe 20. Maybe I might be willing to do a 20 spot on this personally, but that's just me. You make your own call based on this information of what you would like to do about this book if you want it and if you like it. Now, the next book is actually one that I do have. I actually own it. I was trying to dig it out so I could put it up next to me, but I couldn't find it easily. So I said, you know what? It doesn't matter. I don't need to show off that I have this book. It's a cool book. I mentioned it before. This is a pretty awesome Red Wolf, Tedesco, if you ask me. Tedesco is an underrated artist even still. I did a whole video, that retrospective on his art. I still think people need to be looking more closely at some of these Tedesco covers because they are fantastic. And this is just an awesome cover and one that you can find for really cheap, cheaper than you should, because Red Wolf is, again, another book that didn't sell a whole heck of a lot. This came out in February of 2016, and this is a 1 in 25 incentive. I think the first 3 issues or so of that series had incentive covers, as well as a couple other variants, like there's a hip hop for issue 1 as well. But Red Wolf was not a big deal title. Like this and Occupy Avengers. I was going to do a whole theme on those two together, but decided, you know what, I'm just going to pull this one out and we'll just look at this for now. Because if you look at the print run on this, it's only about 12,000 copies for the regular. So when you do a 1 in 25 incentive on this, you're under 500 copies of this, potentially. Again, these are estimated numbers, but still not a book that has a ton of copies out there because there aren't a lot of people buying Red Wolf. Let's just be honest. They just aren't. But I liked it. So I went and found one because it was also way cheaper than I thought a 1 in 25 should be. I always buy cheap incentives. Just something in me. If it's a decent cover and I know it's an incentive, I usually just grab it to add it to my collection because you never know where these things could go. In the census, we only got one. We only got a 9.8. I probably should get mine graded and see if I can get, that second 9.8. Who knows? Who knows? But if you go shopping right now, you want to go look for what's out there for sale, there are 2. One for $20, or I should say $20.98 from Australia. So it'll be $30 shipped with that shipping price, and then $13 with another $10 or so from Canada. So we're looking at $20 to $30 on this thing for 1 in 25. Ain't too bad. I think I paid a lot less than that. I think I paid like $5 for one online. I bought it off eBay personally. My copy, because that's the kind of thing. This is the kind of weird book you would just, when you scan through a seller's other items, you just like, what is this weird incentive? It's like, oh, well, it's $5. Maybe I'll win. I'll throw it in and I'll throw a bid down. And yeah, I won some of these cheap. That's what I do personally to find some of this stuff. I'll just try to bulk ship. Like I'll try to save on the shipping cost and buy a few things for really cheap. And if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, well, no harm, no foul. But still a pretty cool cover if you ask me. And one that should be more expensive, I think, than it is. But hey, I don't run the market. You can see one sold January 16th for best offer on a $10 ask. It sold for only $8. So that's what I'm talking about. This thing could be had for super cheap. And I think it's definitely worth it at that price. Personally, just for the cover. Just for the cover alone. Even if you don't care about what Red Wolf, this is a really cool cover, if you ask me. Now, speaking of cool covers, this next one, I remember when this came out, it was pretty cool. I'm also a big fan of the artist, like I am a fan of Tedesco. I do like David Nakayama, but I didn't buy it because it was just too pricey when it came out. It's a high incentive, so it had a high cost when it was coming out. So I balked, and now good luck finding one. And this is Apocalypse and the Extracts #1 from March of 2019. And like I said, it's a DNA cover. David Nakayama did this gorgeous pink, like retro kind of vibe. You get that kind of 60s psychedelic kind of thing going. It's really cool. But this was a 1 in 50 incentive. So when it came out, like I said, it had a hefty price tag on it because of that. Because how many people were buying or ordering Apocalypse and the Extracts? I know it's an X title, but not every X-Men title gets heavily ordered. And this one in particular only had a print run of under 28,000. So when we do that math, we're only looking at about 557 potential copies of this 1 in 50. So that's not a lot. That's not a lot at all. And taking a look at the census, how many of these got graded? We got a few. We got 12. We got a dozen in the CGC census with 8 9/8s, 3 9/6s, and a 9/4 as the total census. And then I didn't see any over on the CBCS population report to look at. So that's what we got graded wise, a dozen. All right, if we want to go check the market to see how many of these copies are available for sale of this David Nakayama cover, Well, unfortunately, there are none. So there's none on the market right now, nor have there been any sold in the last couple of months. So this is not an easy book to find. As I said, right now, my little research showed none up and none sold. So it is what it is. Now, that said, that's a solid 5 books. And I do have a couple of more that I kind of want to look at. And these are one of these was suggestion along with this Apocalypse and the Extract. I think it was Triple C1 on Instagram made the suggestion of a couple of these books. And I decided, you know what? Even though there's no overall theme, I do have a small chunk that are going to have a theme. And I want to look at the Journey into Mystery incentive variants. This is the end of the run when SIF took over the title. There were a few high incentive ratios that are really, really tough. So I felt like, you know what? We're going to do a little subsection theme here at the end to wrap it up because Triple C also recommended one of these books in this grouping. But I figured, you know what? Well, let's look at all of them. So we're going to start in with the first, which is actually the easiest, the lowest ratio of them all. This is when SIF took over the title. This is a Journey into Mystery 646. This is a Phil Noto cover from November of 2012. This is only a 1 in 20 incentive. So this is the lowest incentive ratio of this list, but it still wasn't a big book at the time. There wasn't a ton of copies being printed, only just under 23,000. So even at 1 in 20, we're looking at only 1,144 potentials. Now, 1,100 is not a tiny number, so that means there's copies out there, but it's still not that easy to find. And when we look in the census, there are only 6 graded with 498s, a 96, and a 94. And none of these Journey into Mystery books were in the CBCS population report. So just going to leave that part out because just the rest of the way, none on the CBCS side of things, because even on the CGC side, there weren't a lot of these graded of the books I'm going to be coming up next. But this first one, I will admit, is easier to find, but I didn't want to leave it out. I just wanted to break the ice, get us rolling into this Journey into Mystery. So we do have 8 copies up right now. So that's a healthy number. It's not a ghost, but it's a book you just want to keep an eye on. You can see one of those 9.6s, $130, and then raw 35 to 40. Ain't too bad. I mean, that's double ratio, but still not an easy book to find, and a pretty cool Phil Noto cover, if you ask me personally. And if you want to see what this thing is sold for, there have not been any sales over the last couple of months, so we don't know what the market is. So if you buy one of those, you're setting the market, or at least the current market, on the book. Now, the rest of the way of these, there's a few more Journey into the Mystery incentives. These are all 1 in 50. So these are all going to be tough because, as you might have guessed, print run does not go up from here. So, with that said, issue 647 is the next one in the run. Again, this is SIF running through the title on the end of this series, or the end of this iteration. Philip Tan, December 2012, 1 in 50 incentive, like I said, on this particular cover. 22,514 copies estimated, which brings the incentive to a robust 450 copies. Tiny number. We look at the CGC census, 10 copies graded, 998s, and a single 96, and that's it. You want to go shopping? Well, you can go shopping. CGCSS on this, 9.8, $1,300. A regular 9.8, $1,000 at auction with 9 days basically on it. And a raw auction starting at $550. So that's what we're talking about with this book. Those are not small prices. And there was a single sale over the last 3 months. And that copy also was not for a tiny amount. Raw asking $900, accepted $750 on this. $750 for this 1 in 50. Raw. Tough. 450 copies, apparently. If we do the math, that's about what we're looking at. So it is what it is. Like I said, all of these are worth knowing and being aware of because they are not easy. Let's take us to our next issue, 648. Also a 1 in 50. This is a Nick Klein cover, January 2013. Print run starts ticking down again. We were at 22.5. Now we're at just under 21,000, which makes our 1 in 50 incentive only 417 potential copies out there. CGC, what do we got here? We only have 7 as opposed to 10, with 5 9.8s, a 9.6, and a 9.4. Once again, no CBCS population report. Listed for sale, we got one 9.8, one of those 9.8s, Bids starting at $400. 9 days to go. Or they'll accept a best offer. So if you don't want to let the auction play out, you can make an offer and maybe you take this book home. And if you want to see what this is sold for, well, unfortunately, no sales over the last 3 months. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Next up, 649. Journey into Mystery, 649. This is also a 1 in 50, February 2013, a Jorge Molina cover on this one. Again, Sif is the focus of this end of the series. I think it carried through until 656, thereabouts, somewhere around there. Though the incentives are about to stop. The incentives only go so far. So, with that, this little bit of the run is coming to a close, but the number's still ticking down. 20, just over 20,000 now. With this one, so it makes the incentive just over 400 at 401 potential copies of this issue at 649. We want to look at the census. Well, there are 398s. Again, numbers going down as we go higher into this run. No CBCS. On the market right now, we have two. Buy it now, asking $1,000, or they'll accept best offer. Or at auction, with a day left at the time that I grabbed these, $420 to start. So that could be ending by the time or have ended by the time you guys see this video. But that was what was on the market at the time that I was doing my research. And what has sold in the last couple of months, we did have one sale where they were asking 175 and they accepted $120, which seems like a bargain compared to the Philip Tan getting 750. But, you know, who knows what while there's less copies potentially of this one, there might be more Philip Tan fans than there are of Jorge Molina. Maybe the other cover was more desirable for buyers of this book. Either way, there's not a lot. So good luck. But as I said, Triple C made a suggestion, and that suggestion was this book, which is the last of our incentives. Issue number 650, milestone number, issue 650 of Journey into Mystery. Pretty cool Daniel Lacuna cover, March 2013 on this. Also a 1 in 50 incentive. Even though it's a milestone issue, it's still dwindling. Print run's still going down, I guess. Not that many people wanted to see Sif take over this title. So just a hair over 19,000 copies, which leaves our incentive potentially at 380. Went down every step as these came out. Why they kept with 1 in 50s, I don't know. I don't know why they had such a high incentive, especially after they started with a 1 in 20. But that's what Marvel did. That's what they decided to make. In the census, we again have a small number. We only have 4 in the census. 398s and then an 8.5. Interesting. So 4 copies out there. 4 copies out there on the census, I should say. If you want to know what's out there on the marketplace, there are none out there for you to buy. And what is sold recently? Well, you guessed it. It's another none. So tough book. I mean, eBay's not the only place to find these things. It's just the easiest thing for me to give you a frame of reference when we're doing these look-ins. You can go shopping anywhere you want on the other auction sites, sale sites, whatever it might be. But the point being, these are some tough books. And I think you can agree, some of these are really tough. Now, what are we going to make our call for this week? Well, I think we can probably say that most of these that we went through are only in that hard to find kind of range. Yes. While they may only have 2 copies of some of these, there's still 2 copies. And like I said, trying to be stricter with what we call ghost and what we just call hard to find. And even though there's only a pair of copies of the Red Wolf, a pair of copies of a couple of the Journey into Mystery 1 in 50s, we're just going to call them hard to find. Hard to find and expensive in most cases. But some of these also had a bunch of copies, like the Iron Man. There was a bunch out there. The Iron Patriot had 4, I think. And while the mixtape only had 2, that's just still one of those things. Who knows how many could actually be out there? We'll just say these books are hard to find and not quite ghosts. However, that leaves us of the 10 books that I decided to cover this week with the Apocalypse and the Extracts, and then 648 and 650 of Journey into Mystery. I feel comfortable calling all 3 of these ghosts because outside of that 648 Journey into Mystery that had 1 copy, the other 2 had none. No copies on the market, no copies sold. So I'm just calling them ghosts. Agree, disagree. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what other books you might want to see possibly make it onto this list, and we'll take a look and see what they might be. Are they ghosts? Are they just hard to find? Let's just bring awareness to some of these books, because that's the whole point of why I like doing this. Apart from making myself aware of the market on some of these books, I like sharing the information and letting you guys see some of these tough books too. Some of them just have gorgeous covers, and they're just underappreciated, and just something you should keep an eye out for. And if you have any of these in your collection, please tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see them. I love seeing these tough books and actually in people's hands, in collectors' hands, being enjoyed and appreciated for what they are. Now, that all said, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you checking this out. Hopefully, you enjoyed this series as well as all the other things here on Rennavision. Like, subscribe, keep telling your friends so we can keep growing this thing. And yeah, I'll be back with some more content for you very soon, and back with some more ghosts for us to make that call next week. So, with that, I will see you guys later.